the third sermon of the series that we've entitled Blessed. We've been kind of taking a journey with this guy by the name of Jacob. And, it still amazes me. This God that I serve, this God that you serve, it amazes me that he would bless a guy like Jacob. I still have trouble believing that he would do that. But yet he does. And all the mistakes that Jacob made, the lies, the deceitfulness, and yet God says, I'm going to bless you. And here's what we're going to read today is a story. It sounds like it come off of the script of a soap opera. How many of you like soap operas? Oh, come on. Days of Our Lives, Young and Restless. You know what? I bet if I turned those on today, they'd be the same ones that my mom was watching when I was growing up. Actors and actresses probably haven't even changed yet. But it's going to be like a soap opera. And if you're into soaps, you're going to love this story today. I'm telling you. It's, there's love. I love love. Don't you love love? Yeah, there's going to be love, and there's going to be romance, and there's going to be sisters that are fighting over a man. Yeah, we don't do that, do we? Well, let me just do a quick reminder of what we've done the last couple of weeks. Jacob, the younger brother of Esau, youngest in his family, most known for conning his father and his brother out of Esau's birthright and then also out of the blessing. The name Jacob, if you remember, actually means deceiver, right? He's a shady character. But God decided before Jacob was even born that he was going to be blessed, that he was going to bless him. And so we've learned over these past 2 weeks that we're a whole lot like Jacob. Because God doesn't bless us because we deserve it. God blesses us because he chooses to. God blessed us beyond measure when he sent his son to this world. You know, we say, for God so loved the world. Let me just change that a bit. For God so blessed the world. I think those are interchangeable right there. But God is choosing who he blesses. So after Jacob deceives, lies, cheats his brother, Esau, I'm Esau's guy here. He wants to kill him. I'm with Esau, right? I want to take Jacob out. But Jacob's running away and he's laying out in the desert with his head on a rock. And his God shows up, and he tells Jacob the same thing that he told Abraham. I'm going to bless you, and you're going to be the father of many nations. Think about that for a moment. He's going to cause his family to become a nation. And he's going to be extra special to God, and the entire group of people, everybody in his family, will be blessed. This blows me away. So Jacob's a fugitive. He's running from his brother. He's trying to save his life. And God reminds him in the midst of that he's blessed. Now, everything I just talked about is in Genesis chapter 28. Today, we're going to move into chapter 29. Genesis chapter 29. Jacob has moved on from where he was sleeping with his head on that rock. I'm sure when he got up that morning, his head was held a little higher. He was strolling with a little more confidence, probably a little arrogance, if you will. He just talked with God. How would you walk after you talked with God? You know, I can't imagine he'd be any different. He's walking with that confidence because God told him he was blessed. I just want to remind you one more time, God's ultimate plan for Jacob was to make his family into a great nation. Now think about that. So in chapter 29, Jacob meets a beautiful woman. Yeah, here we go. Now the fun begins. He meets her, And she invites him back to meet the family and to stay with them. Anybody here got teenage daughters? If your daughter went out and met somebody and came home with him the night she met, oh, whoa. I'm not afraid to go back to jail. That'd be my thought. But this is crazy. She meets Rachel. She invites him back to the family and to stay with them. Can we just say things moved a lot quicker back then than they do today? I would not want to see that happen in my life. So they're there, and Rachel's dad, Laban, he tells Jacob that if he will work for him for 7 years, he will give her to him. And Jacob agrees. Okay, guys. Are you with me here? What in the world? I worked 3 months with my wife's father. 3 months longer than I probably should have. Jacob's working 7 years so that he can get Rachel as a wife. Now, ladies, I know you're thinking this is pretty romantic, isn't it? He's willing to spend that much time to get you to be his wife. Isn't that so romantic? Let me read you verse 20, chapter 29. Probably the most romantic verse in the entire Bible. Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed only a few days to him because of his love for her. Oh, isn't that so sweet? I'm going to tell you what, guys, this is free. There's no charge for this. Guys, the next time your wife asks you to do something, or your significant other asks you to do something that you don't want to do, you respond that same way. You tell her that there's nothing that you won't do because of your love for her. Guess what'll happen? Yeah, there won't be a fight. Jacob worked 7 years, 7 years, so he can get to marry the girl of his dreams. Let's pick it up in chapter 29, verse 21. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife. My time is completed. I want to make love to her." And so Laban brought together all the people of the place and gave them a feast. But when the evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob. And Jacob made love to her. And Laban gave his servant Zilpah to his daughter as her attendant. When morning came, there was Leah. I love that statement. There was Leah. Jacob said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? The deceiver just got deceived." Isn't that awesome? What goes around comes around. There it is. What have you done to me? He says, "I served you for Rachel, didn't I? So why have you deceived me?" Verse 26, Laban replied, "It is not our custom to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish this daughter's bridal week." Okay, I'm doing a wedding on October the 8th, and I'm going to walk in. We'll do the wedding. It'll be 15, 20 minutes. We'll have a little bit of reception, and we're done. Right? Probably an hour max to do this wedding. They're doing a week of wedding. Finish out your week, and then we'll give you the younger one also. Here's the catch. In return for another 7 years of work. Oh, Jacob did so. He finished the week with Leah, and Laban gave him his daughter to be his wife, Rachel. And Laban gave his servant Bilpah to his daughter Rachel as her attendant. And so Jacob made love to Rachel also, and his love for Rachel was greater than his love for Leah, and he worked for Laban another 7 years. I love this. This is a great story. The con has been conned, right? That's how it looks. Laban tricked Jacob and gave him Leah. Now, you would think because they're sisters, they would both be as beautiful, right? I mean, my wife, now, granted, she's an identical twin, but her and her sister, oh, they could play tricks, all right? They look so much alike. They're so beautiful. And so you would think that Leah would be as beautiful as Rachel was, but I want to read a verse to you. I skipped it earlier, chapter 29, verse 16 and 17. Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah. The name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Think about that for a moment. She had weak eyes. Didn't say she was ugly, even though between the lines, that's what I read. So Leah wasn't pretty, she was ugly, and Jacob got stuck with Leah first. Oh, doesn't outright say she's ugly, but describes her having weak eyes. But describes Rachel, I love it, Rachel as having a lovely figure. Now, I don't know what that meant back in Old Testament days. I don't know if that meant the same type of thing we see today with our models, these figures. Yeah, these figures. No, I don't know if it meant that. But it also said she was beautiful, but gave none of that in the way of compliment to Leah. So, guys, listen. If you're in the dating field right now, I'll talk to you guys. If you're in the dating field right now, and somebody sets you up on a blind date, and they said that this girl has weak eyes, don't go. Just a warning. Just a warning. Now let's just stop for a second. I want to think through about what's going on here. I want to think about where Jacob is coming from. You see, the last thing we read in chapter 28 was God telling Jacob how blessed he was. He literally said to Jacob that I am with you and I will watch over you wherever you go. And the next thing that happens to Jacob is he meets this beautiful girl. And he wants to marry her. And she wants to marry him as bad as he wants to marry her. I bet Jacob was just feeling like, oh man, it's all coming together. God is now filling the blessing that he promised me, right? He's got that going. It's all coming together. Things are on the up and up. His past was behind him. He was blessed and God was working everything out. And just when Jacob thought it was all good, it turns upside down again. He gets something he doesn't want. He gets something different than what he was expecting. Here, let's say it like this. Imagine some night that you have a dream, and God told you that he was going to bless you and to make you great. Well, the next morning, you get up, you wash, you shower, you're sitting on a couch, and you get a call. Calls from an investor who wants to invest $1 million to help you start your own business. So now you're feeling, okay, God just told me I was going to be blessed. This is going to happen. So now it's happening, right? But then all of a sudden, everything falls through. And you have to go get a job. And the only place that's hiring right now is McDonald's. Third shift. Every day you go into work thinking about the fact that God told you he was going to bless you. And you thought everything was coming together, but now you're flipping burgers in the middle of the night. Now, maybe that example is a little far-fetched. Let's bring something a little closer home. You fell in love with a very handsome man, Joan. My chance, that was my chance. I took it. And you decided to marry him. And you've dreamed about the future and you felt like God was blessing you. But now it's been 40 years later. Oh boy. It is definitely not what she thought it was going to be. I don't look like she thought I was going to look. At one point in time, we were in debt up to our eyeballs. This one's not true, but maybe it is in some lives about where the guy cheats on his wife, which I would never do. But you thought it was all going to be different. You thought God was going to do something special because you thought God was going to bless you. But blessed is the last thing you feel right now. Or maybe you used to dream about the future. You had a dream for a career, for success, but because kids came into your life, you ended up just taking the job you could get. You ended up taking the job that would pay the most money. And because of that, you go to work every day, and those dreams have died. You're working to pay the bills because that's what good guys do. But you definitely don't feel like God's blessing you right now. Jacob worked for 7 years to get the woman that he was in love with. And now he has something he doesn't want. He feels taken advantage of. But I want you to know what Jacob, the deceiver, the con man, I want you to notice what he did, because he's a changed man at this point in time. Most of us, let's face it, we would have looked at Laban, and when he did that, we would have quit, we would have taken Rachel, and we would have run away. That's not what Jacob did. He agreed to work for another 7 years. Jacob does the very faithful, respectable, responsible thing for the first time in his life. Even though Laban didn't treat him with respect, Laban didn't treat him responsible, Jacob took the high road and was responsible. And here's what we learn. Here's the lesson for today. This is what we learn. When what you have is not what you want, faithfully work with what you've got. When what you have is not what you want, faithfully work with what you've got. Let's connect some dots here. You see, I told you early on that Jacob had a grandfather. His grandfather's name was Abraham. And God came to Abraham years before Jacob and said that he was going to be blessed. He was going to be the father of many nations. Some of you know him, don't you? Father Abraham has 70 sons. 70 sons, you know that? That's as far as I'm going with it. But you know who Abraham is? That's Jacob's grandfather. And so we know that Jacob had a good line. There's a good lineage there. Abraham. And he said that Abraham's going to be blessed. His family was going to become a great nation. His descendants would be as the dust of the earth. I don't know how many of you that I would like to have descendants of the dust of the earth for. I don't think you want descendants from me from the dust of the earth either. But that's what was going to happen. Abraham was going to have descendants that were like the dust of the earth. But yet, when you add things up, you don't really find a nation forming, do you? Abraham had 2 sons, Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac had 2 sons, Esau and Jacob. Now, I think everybody out there can count this high, right? Does that sound like a nation to you? 4? Does that sound like an 8? Not even close. Not even close to a nation. The way a family becomes a great nation is growing at a fast and a large rate. And at this point in their lives, that's not happening. So here's the key. God gives Jacob something he doesn't want. Leah. Right? But then in the giving him Leah, it's not what Jacob wanted, but what he needed. Do you love that? You love that when your mom used to say, you're not getting what you want, you're getting what you need. You're not getting a candy bar for dinner, you're getting spinach. Right? We don't like getting what we need, we want what we want. And that was the same thing with Jacob. He wanted what he wanted. And again, Genesis 29:31. When the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. Jacob wanted Rachel, but God needed Jacob to have Leah. Now, without being crude, God needed Jacob to work with what he had. You see, Leah was going to give him 6 sons. And this is where the soap opera begins, right? Leah gets pregnant, 4 sons for Jacob. And Rachel tells Jacob to sleep with her servant, and the servant has 2 sons. Then Leah decides, since Rachel gave her servant, she's going to give her servant too. And so he slept with her servant, and she gets pregnant with a son. And God allows Rachel then to get pregnant and ends up having 2 sons. Does that not sound like an episode of Jerry Springer? It's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. God sent Jacob to Laban's house to be tricked into marrying a daughter that he didn't want, and also to get a daughter that he loved. And so with Leah and Rachel, along with their 2 servants, he would end up having 12 sons. And those 12 sons would go on to become the 12 tribes of Israel. The nation has finally started. All because when what Jacob got was not what he wanted, he faithfully worked with what he had. I'm going to say that again and again until it gets into your brain. What you have. If what you have is not what you want, you faithfully work with what you've got. And in that mess, God will bless. We don't have time to keep reading through the story today, but Jacob's going to tell Laban he wants to leave. And Laban's going to try to take advantage of him again. And he tells him he can't take any of the livestock with him. But they finally did come to an agreement, and Jacob would take only the spotted and the lame animals. And here again, Jacob finds himself in a place where God told him he's going to be wealthy. He's going to be blessed. And in Jacob's mind and in our minds, we're not getting what we deserve. So many times that's how we feel. When we're not seeing God bless us the way we believe that we need to be blessed, we argue with God. God's telling Jacob, man, when what you got is not what you want, faithfully work with what you've got, and then the blessings will come. What do you do with that today? What do you do with this story? Just for a moment, take a look around in your life. Don't look around at the people. Look around in your life. I want you to think about it for a moment. For some of you right now, I know it is so hard to get up and go to that job that you have, because they sure don't feel like a blessing right now. I know there are some of you that need to be serving in your marriage, and that marriage isn't what you dreamed it would be. Sure don't feel blessed right now, do we? We are blessed. We are blessed. It's amazing how many times when we don't see the blessing, we want to give up. We want to quit. We want to end it. We want to take Rachel and we want to run out of the country and get away from that family of hers. God tells us never give up. Why? Because I am with you. I'm with you. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. God's with me. If God's with me, there is no greater blessing I can have in life. But the problem is we get so focused looking out for the blessing that we miss the blessing that's here. So today the encouragement is to realize the blessing that you have in your life begins in here, not out there. Don't give up. Don't quit. Be Jacob at this time. Be faithful in what you do have. Work it. You're blessed. Because I promise you this morning that God does know what he's doing. Would you agree with that? Would you agree with that? Is God sovereign, as we asked 2 weeks ago? Is God sovereign? Then he absolutely knows what's best for my life. He knows what's best for your life. Now, does that mean I'm always going to like it? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, there are times in my life I say, okay, God, you move over here, let me take care of things. You ever do that? If we don't understand, sometimes what we have is not what we want. But God is sovereign, and he knows that what we have is best. And we need to work with what we've got.